welcome. It's great to see some new faces. Thank you for being here, and some old friends, and we're all happy to come together today to learn about healthy living with safe tech. And as Nikki described my background, I am a teacher from Los Angeles. I spent 30 years there, and I loved it. I taught everything from kindergarten to 7th grade. It's in my blood. My mom was a teacher, and Nikki did say that I'm a Pilates teacher now, and so I just wanted to continue on helping people feel better in their bodies, whether it be kids or adults. And I am electrosensitive, and I'm going to delve deeper into that later on in the presentation. But because I was starting to understand my situation with my body and how I was reacting, I started going, as Nikki said, deeper into the studies about what this means and how it's manifested in a body. And so that led me to learn about it and then establish Oregon for Safer Technology. Alan is here. Alan, raise your hand. So Alan is a founding member, and we have a few other people who helped bring that group together. And we've been working really hard for the past 6 years now, educating, advocating, and helping people feel better. So with that, Lindsay.
Well, what I'll say about myself is that I've worked in 3 sectors in my career. The first was technology, but fortunately that was cable, before wireless. So I don't have any guilt about what's going on today. And then next was public education, high school teacher. And after that was healthcare as a nutritionist. And what's interesting is, of those 3, which one do you think taught me the most about where we're at today as something that we need to manage? Good guess, but it's wrong. It was high school. Yes, it was high school. Because I just happened to be teaching high school when it all came down, all the wireless. And the word anxiety, if I heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times in the halls, in the classrooms. I wrote my master's thesis on it. I thought, what is going on here? I had teens myself while I was teaching teens, my own kids, and teaching teens, and they were riddled with anxiety. And can you imagine, remember when we went to school and the weekend came? If some bully was mean to you at school, you had the weekend with your neighborhood kids and your family and some vacation, woodsy cabin to go to or whatever. You got away from it. They 24/7, they're plugged in. And as a high school teacher, we were getting all these memos. If you see a kid falling asleep in class over and over, they're probably gaming, and we would get bulletin after bulletin about, to tell the parents to not put a computer in the bedroom because the kids, the porn and whatever that they just stumble upon, not even if they're looking for it. So anyway, that is what moved me from education into healthcare. And that's all I'll say right now. The rest of it will come with the slides. But thank you for coming out tonight. Really appreciate it.
Oh, great, that worked, technology. So our topics tonight are, we're going to delve deeply into your body and safe technology. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what are electromagnetic fields, the natural kind and the man-made or artificial kind. We're going to look at some tech habits for your body, your car, and your home. And we have some tools for you to take with you, actual physical tools. And then we'll go more into your environment and safe technology and social settings. How do we manage that environment and mitigate or control our exposure? And then we'll talk about community and safe technology and education, advocacy, and then taking action. So what can we do? So our goal is, at the end of this presentation, we want you to walk away here feeling pretty good that there are solutions. We can go deep dive into the internet and look at the uglier side. I don't want to say it like that, but there's a lot of flyers here on the counter, and I encourage you, when we're done, So we'll be going about an hour and a half, so we'll leave a half hour for questions, but help yourself to any of these flyers. And we also have a list of people in our community who can help you. If you say, wow, I really need an electrician who can help me hardwire my home, then we have some sources, we have some options with that. So next slide is, we're going to talk about those electromagnetic fields, as I said. So since the dawn of time, natural waves have been present on Earth. And these natural waves are water, sound, and light, heat from the sun, and fire. So these waves are smooth and they travel in a random order. And that word is very important, random. We get protection from these waves, obviously from sunscreen, special clothing, umbrellas, life jackets, etc. And then the man-made waves are used in wireless technology. And this is where it gets a little bit technical and just expand the understanding that these waves, they're sharp and they're strong. And they're a pulse electromagnetic field that comes at you billions of times per second. And how do these magic devices work? These cell phones, these wireless routers, etc. They have to have this pulsing energy to do what they do. And one thing I do want to clarify is that our goal is to help you use tech safely, and we are not Luddites. That word comes around, and a Luddite is somebody who just rejects technology completely. We understand that a lot of people need their cell phones for their business and communication with children and family and friends, etc. So examples of these devices, we have Wi-Fi, cell phones, cell towers, cordless phones, baby monitors, smart devices, smart meters. So the issue comes around with overexposure to these waves, because that's where the harm comes in. The word, the letters RFR, you'll hear those words again and again, that they stand for radio frequency radiation. So that's a lot of syllables, so we just shorten it to RFR. And that's these pulsed electromagnetic waves coming at you. And RFR is emitted by all of these devices. So these artificial waves of energy are harmful to many and very harmful to some. The human body can't handle this intense pulsation. And some people say, I have no issue. I sleep like a baby. I have no headaches, no brain fog, no tinnitus, and fantastic. But there are some people who are developing these symptoms and they question, what's going on with me? I used to be able to sleep so well, or now I have this buzzing in my head, or my hand is actually heating up when I use my cell phone. So as I said, we're going to give you some tools to help you manage those conditions. And yeah, I think I've covered this slide. Oh, okay. So, sorry, Lindsay, can you give me my purse right down there? So this room, the library, has Wi-Fi, and as I said, it's a necessary tool in this instance. But I have what's called the meter, and I love how Nikki asked everybody to put their phones in airplane mode, so our little experiment may not work. But this is an RF meter, and I carry it with me almost everywhere I go. And you're going to really go, turn that off. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
The battery's dead. Oh no. Okay, well, good. Let's just assume that, oh, Alan.
Oh, Alan, good.
Bless your heart. Is it working? Do you carry yours everywhere you go?
Only to the metaphysical act.
My partner in crime, Alan. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm putting mine without battery away. Okay. So you can hear those frequencies. You can see how it's jumping from orange to red. And if you all had your cell phones on, this would be much higher. So I'm happy because it's not too bad. Once it jumps into the pulsing red, I'm going to turn that sound off. So you can go without the sound. So Lindsay's going to show us another example. She's going to turn her phone on.
So it's in airplane mode right now.
Okay.
Did you turn it back on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, put the noise on just
Okay.
Okay, now I'm going to take it out of airplane mode.
Wow.
Oh,
And if she were to make a phone call right now, it would, it would really move over into the red.
wow.
So, like I said,
What is that called, the meter?
yeah, it's called well, this is from a company called Safe and Sound, and they sell these meters. I don't know if we put that on our list, but
And say again what it's.
it measures the RFR, the radio frequency radiation of your environment. So, thanks, Alan. That was awesome. Okay.
Saved by
I
Yeah,
know,
it's not
saved by
every day
Alan.
that
One more time.
Okay, Lindsay, are you ready?
I'm ready. Is
All
it?
right.
Or do you? I think you have one more slide though. That you're. Am I wrong? Oh no, you're right.
Nope, that's
Okay.
you. And here's your little good
Thanks.
gadget.
Okay, so getting into the cell phone. All right, so I just demonstrated airplane mode. Does everybody here know how to put their phone on airplane mode? Anybody not know? I should ask. Okay, so the thing about airplane mode is depending on the model of phone that you have and the version of software that you have, when you put your phone on airplane mode, it will usually turn off Wi-Fi. It may also turn off Bluetooth. I'll talk about Bluetooth in a minute. So surprisingly, it's not the same for every phone. It just depends on the version and the model of phone that you have. But airplane mode is your friend. And what you want to do here in general, let me just start by saying, is our talk is about healthy tech and healthy habits. So we're going to be talking about the different radiation that comes through the phone and through computers and other devices in your house and whatnot. What you want to remember first and foremost is distance is your friend. The further away that you are from it, the better. So what I am doing in my own life is I'm rolling back the way I use my phone. And I didn't do it overnight. I didn't do it all at once. But now I'm in a pretty good spot with it. And people know that I'm not available 24/7, nor do I want to be. I have a friend from the Bay Area, and she goes, well, you're so lucky. I said, why? She goes, because people know. They don't expect to reach you. And I was thinking, oh, wow, you too could be that, you know? It's not impossible. But everybody has different situations. Sometimes it's work, sometimes it's kids that you have to keep in contact with. But the point is these are habits that you can start to step back. So I put my phone on airplane mode most of the time. And I never have it on my body. You do not want to carry it on your body. Why? Because distance is your friend. So the earbuds that you see people walking around with, that's a problem. It's Bluetooth. So Bluetooth is a short-range wireless technology. It can extend to about 33 feet, and it's harmful, even at low power range. So having it in an opening to your skull is even worse. This is the kind of thing that the more you know, the more terrifying it is when you see people walking around all over the place with those buds in their ear. So I would say what you want to do instead is get anti-radiation buds. So there tends to be a solution to most of these problems that we're talking about. That's the good news. So these are about $25. You can get them on Amazon. And they just, the old-fashioned way. And they're anti-radiation. So I would recommend that. And turning your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth off whenever possible. So I was going to demonstrate, if you have a phone, you can take it out, and I can kind of walk you through this idea that when you go to your settings, so when you go into your cell phone, usually the app is settings, I'm going very primary, very basic here, but and airplane mode is the first thing you see. So in my phone, if I turn airplane mode on, my Wi-Fi goes off, but my Bluetooth doesn't. So the critical pieces are right there on that first screen. You've got your airplane mode, and then you have Wi-Fi, which usually, on most phones, will usually then turn to off as soon as you put airplane mode. If the Bluetooth doesn't, you just simply go into Bluetooth and turn it off manually. There's really not a lot that you need Bluetooth for once you start to develop these healthy habits. And then the other thing I want to mention while we have our phones out is there's a setting down a little bit further called General. And if you go into General and you scroll down, you'll see something called Legal and Regulatory. And once you select that, the last option in that subscreen is called RF exposure. So there it is, buried deep in the bowels of your phone. And when you choose it, it's a very long legal document about how these things emit radiation. So just in case you weren't sure, there it is. All right, so what would be something that you might want to work towards would be, of course, have an iPhone, keep it on airplane most of the time until you need to make a call or you want to send a text. Same thing, you can't receive text when it's on airplane mode, you can't make a call. But you could also hardwire your phone. The way you do that is you have somebody come out to your house to set it up. You need an electrician to do it, and then you just need to buy some simple devices. This is a coax cable. It would plug into a port that the electrician installs in your house. Those ports, you would have them in whatever rooms you want. You'd have the electrician put them in whatever rooms, and from those ports, there's wire that he puts through your floor or through your ceilings out to where your router is. And I say out to where your router is because you want your router as far away from your living space as possible. So we have ours in our garage. So the router's out in the garage because the routers emit. Some of the routers have the capability to have the Wi-Fi turned off. It's just a little switch on the actual router. And you just turn off the Wi-Fi because once you hardwire your house, you don't need Wi-Fi anymore. So then the router, let's say, is as far away as you can put it. Your house is wired. Then you just get this is called a lightning because it lights up. It kind of looks like lightning when a call's coming in. Hook it up to your phone, which hooks up to this cable. The cable, see the lightning? The cable hooks up to the wall or the port in whatever room. And now you can take it off airplane mode, and then that same screen that I was talking about that has settings, you go into the settings, and now off of airplane mode, right now my Wi-Fi says not connected because I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi in this room. But if I have a hardwired house, then I just turn my Wi-Fi off completely. I never need to use Wi-Fi on my phone because my phone is now hardwired. Okay, any questions about that?
Well, we're going to do questions at the end.
You're right. And then for your computer,
What is that called, that cord?
it's coax cable. Yeah, all this cable is coax.
Coax?
Coaxial.
Coaxial.
Yeah, the short is COAX.
I-X.
And then this is the same thing only for your computer. So you just plug this into the port and plug this into your computer. Now on your own computer, you can turn off the Wi-Fi and you can turn off the Bluetooth. So now we're going backwards where how computers used to be wired. They used to be wired like this. Okay, so, and also just wanted to mention that texting uses less radiation than making a phone call. And there's always the possibility to get a landline for your home as well, so that you only use your phone when you are leaving the house and need to have it with you, you can, while you're setting it all up, get a landline for your phone, for a good old-fashioned phone. And then children, their skulls are much thinner than ours, so it's really not good for them too. He exposed it all. Okay, and that is, so there's some more about cell phones on the next slide, which has to do with cell phones in your car. So, what's happening when you're in your car is that if your cell phone's on, two things are happening. You're in a metal container, and so the radiation is trapped and amplified, so you're getting more of it. And also, you're in motion, so your cell phone's going, where's the next tower, where's the next tower, where's the next tower? So it's emitting more radiation than normal. So of all the places that you shouldn't have it on is the car. But there's a lot of reasons why people want to have their cell phone on in the car, like they want the GPS. So good news, you can have your phone in airplane mode and still use the GPS. How does that work? It's satellite. However, it's not a two-way communication, it's just a one-way. The satellite is talking to your phone, but your phone is not searching for the satellite. So the GPS still works. Another thing, I do long drives. I have grandkids down in Southern California. So 8-hour drives in the car, and podcasts are wonderful. And you can download anything you want to listen to on your phone, download it to your phone before you take off on your trip, because that would include movies if you got kids in the car, or music that you like. You just download it to your phone, then you don't need an internet connection. So then again, you can keep your phone in airplane mode, but have access to things like podcasts. Cars, unfortunately. It's getting harder and harder to find a good old-fashioned car. And now they're all coming with more and more bells and whistles. So you would want to also turn the Bluetooth and the Wi-Fi off in your car if you've got one of these, newer cars. And it's usually pretty self-explanatory if you look at the manual, but if you can't figure it out, then you can call the dealership. Okay.
Is there a year at which it starts to have that in the car?
It's different for all the different models, so yeah, it just depends. But your manual's your best bet to figure out what's going on in your car.
So
What year is your Jeep, Kelly?
we'll take questions at the end, Bruno. Now, this is a request from our friends here at the RVML because they're recording this and they'd like it to be more clean for their viewers. So I'll be happy to take questions at the end. So let's move on and talk about the body and safe technology with children and pregnant women. Lindsay already mentioned that children's skulls are much thinner and they're still developing. So radiation from cell phones penetrates more deeply into their brains and is more likely to cause damage. We've all heard that children, preteens, teens should not be drinking alcohol, using drugs, and marijuana for that reason, because their brains are still developing. So you're stunting growth. And I just do want to say this, that the science and the on this type of technology and the research is lacking. Why is it lacking? Because if you think logically, there's some money involved in this technology and the sale of the technology, and there is no money in showing that it could be harmful to you. So independent scientists are called quacks and told, their funding is pulled if a university says we don't like what you're saying, that kind of thing. So I don't want to go too much into that, but we don't want to let children use a cell phone or wireless device. Really, that's ideal. Like Lindsay said, you can download stuff. You can download a movie and then give them the tablet. And the bottom line is we have to protect children. They're our future. And we've got to teach them these safer habits. And we have to find safer ways to entertain kids without radiating them. And quickly about pregnancy. So Kaiser Permanente did a study in which they gauged pregnant moms using wireless devices and women not using the wireless devices. And miscarriage was higher in the women who were using wireless devices, which tells you something. So I can't imagine that that would be the end result of anybody. That would just not, that would be so sad, right? All right, so I'm going to talk about your home and safe tap. So Lindsay went through a lot of things, but I just wanted to touch upon the main points. So in your home, you want to use an Ethernet or twisted pair cable. You want to hardwire devices, and it sounds complicated with all these wires and gadgets, and it can be, but it also can be fairly easy. Hiring an electrician is definitely an option, but there are ways to look at it and go online and figure it out yourself, because I know money can be an issue. So you never want to place the laptop on your body, even if you have it in the Wi-Fi turned off, because there's that radiation, that electrical field is still pulsing through the device and into your lap. I'll just leave it at that. You want to turn off the Wi-Fi setting, the Bluetooth settings on your devices, and the smart devices can be tricky. Smart TVs, smart refrigerators, because sometimes there's no way to deactivate the Wi-Fi in those smart devices. And as Lindsay said, you're going to put your Wi-Fi router as far away from your living space as possible. If you can put it in the garage, that would be ideal. One thing I did want to mention in Lindsay's demonstration about the cell phone, and she went through general and RF exposure, down in that setting, it'll say this, your device should be kept, let's say, 3 centimeters away from your body. Well, I can guarantee that none of you, when you went and bought your cell phone, the vendor said, oh, by the way, there's this warning in here. You don't want to put your phone here, because 3 centimeters, would be here. And every phone is going to be different. It's called a SAR rating, and that SAR rating is given by the device maker, and they are determined to be like, how safe is it? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? We see people carrying cell phones in the back pocket. It's a little scary, but that's personal choice. I know I'm going on and on, but I think it's important. So hopefully most of you are familiar. If you look, I have an Apple computer. I don't know the PCs too well, but up on the upper bar, you'll see the little triangle, and that's your Wi-Fi, and you can click on that, and you can turn that Wi-Fi off on your computer. So your home should be the sanctuary where you get to go and rest and rejuvenate, and that is why we're really amplifying and emphasizing here that your home should be very green. You saw the red from the meter, so when we say green, we want it to be clean. That's another way that that term is used. And you want, sleep is restorative. So turning off the phones and Wi-Fi at night is really key. Somebody was mentioning to me earlier about smart meters and the ability to opt out, and that was something we hadn't included in our discussion, but that was a good jog to my memory, because in Ashland, you can contact the electric company and say, hey, I don't want a radiating smart meter, I want an no RF meter, and they will oblige you for free. If you live in Medford or you have Pacific Power, you can do the same thing. They charge you, I think, an opt-out fee and then a small fee per month to read the meter. Okay, so those are options with that smart meter, because the smart meter is emitting constantly as well. It's constantly radiating you. I sleep, my bedroom is, the breakers are turned off, because I am electrosensitive, and I'm going to talk about that now. But doing that, I sleep so well now. Turning the breakers off eliminates the electricity in the walls, and it eliminates the electricity from coming through your outlets. And it is more involved, and if you want to talk to me later, I will be happy to explain how we did that. But some people go, well, I'll just turn my breaker off at night and sleep that way, and that's a good trick. So I became electrosensitive. We all know what think we've all heard about chemical sensitivity, where you smell something and people become physically ill. Well, electrosensitivity is similar. And I became sick when the elementary school that I was working at, they installed a really strong Wi-Fi router. And a few teachers in my district became ill when this happened. My symptoms are tinnitus. I had horrible ringing in my ear. I had insomnia. I was addicted to sleeping pills. I had brain fog and headaches. I had atrial fibrillation, in which twice I went to the ER thinking I was having a heart attack. And got to the hospital, they did the test, stress test, etc. We don't know what's wrong with you. You're in perfectly good health. Well, why did that happen? Well, of course, Los Angeles is a hub of technology and cell towers, and it was, you know, looking back, I could go, well, that's why. That back then, you're just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. So that's what happened with me. And again, as I said, I just went down the road of discovery and learned more and more about this condition, and it's worldwide. People are really, June 16th, coming up, yeah, it's World EHS Day. I mean, it's a day we'd forget about because how many people understand that concept. So it is spreading, the story is spreading, the narrative is being more understood, that we can't keep proliferating wireless devices and go down that road. So let's take a look at a home that's inundated with radiation. So what emits wireless radiation? We've got the smart TV, the wireless speakers. Maybe you have a cell tower outside a window. The smart tech with lighting, your Wi-Fi router, laptops, a wireless mouse. And I have a wired mouse. Mine is plugged into my computer. Cordless phones, which you're like, what? So you get a landline and you buy these cordless phones. Well, they still work with an antenna. My mom developed fibromyalgia. And if you know anything about that disease, it was such a mystery. She was healthy. Why did she become so ill, where you have these mystery aches and pains? Well, we had these DECT phones, they're called, these wireless phones systems. I don't know, 6 of them throughout our house. And I don't know. You know, like I said, the research is not there yet. So you've got your tablets and your cell phones and these wireless headphones. And trying to just cross off a couple of these. If you leave here and you go, yeah, maybe I could do that. And you go, okay, I'm going to eliminate that. Okay, I'm going to feel better maybe if I, and don't expect something to happen like this. When you turn off your Wi-Fi router at night and you wake up in the morning and you're like, well, I didn't really sleep better, I'm going to, forget it. Your brain and your body has to heal, do some healing. So give it some time. Do you want to add anything?
No, it's great what you're saying. I'll just add that we recently got a TV that was a smart TV, not because we wanted a smart TV, but because that's what they have now. And so my husband, it took a little bit of time because the setup for it was to be done by your phone. I mean, they're just assuming that we all, right? So it took him a little time. He was a little frustrated. Heard some cussing going on down there, but he figured it out. And it's not wireless. It's a regular old TV that it came with what do you call that?
Remote.
It came with a remote, but the instructions were all for setting it up on your phone. So you had to figure out how to do with the remote.
And one last thing I will add, that we didn't have this on here, but there are some studies, and I'm sure you could Google, fluorescent bulbs, LED bulbs, I don't know, what would be the...
Incandescent?
Well, no, versus incandescent. You want the incandescent, but the LED and the fluorescent, they flicker. And they flicker, you cannot see it, your brain is feeling it, that flickering. So we were sold, like, you have to get LED bulbs, they're the best, you're going to save energy and save the world. I don't know about that. Might have been that marketing thing that they really, wanted you to get those.
And what is smart tech, Kelly?
I think, those are, you aim your remote at your lights. You aim your remote at your speakers. You aim your remote, everything's...
Okay.
And I don't know if that's that's a cordless phone, but what about Alexa? I don't know if anyone has one of those.
Oh, we talked about that, yeah.
People love their Alexa.
What is that?
It's just, Alexa's just like this small device, not much bigger than this would be in real life. And it's like, Alexa, play this song for me. Alexa, look up this thing for me.
Sort of like Siri on your phone.
Yeah, it's like, exactly. But it's a device, and people have them in their home, and they love them.
Okay. Okay. Ready, lady?
Yeah, ready.
Can I
Okay.
just ask one question? Are you going to talk anything about animals? Like you were talking about kids and stuff. Are you going to talk about animals
We
as well,
can.
or-
We can. We can get to that.
Just wondering.
Screen time. Less screen time equals more free time. So as you start to develop habits where you check your phone at intervals, so you have it on airplane mode, maybe you wait a couple hours, maybe you start out with just 15 minutes, depending on how much time you spend on your phone, it will determine the intervals that you drop down. So let's say this is a new day, tomorrow's a new day, and you're not going to look at your phone for an hour. So you put it on airplane mode, and then an hour goes by, and you pick it up, and you turn off airplane mode. You see if anybody's called you, anybody's texted you, you return calls, return texts, put it back on airplane mode, and walk away. Notice yourself. If you will see addiction tendencies. I mean, they're there. These things are very addictive. They've made them to be so. So don't feel bad about your own addictions. So then what I've noticed as I've gone through this process is at first, I went on a digital detox for a week. It was a Ayurvedic retreat, and they said, you really should try not to use your phone while you're here. So I was like, oh yeah, great, that's great. And then after about, half a day, I was like, oh my God, I'm so bored. Like, I was just thinking, I want to look at that phone, but I'm really going to try not to. And I thought, I've done all this stepping down, and I still notice the addiction in myself. So that's kind of a cool thing to see, because it will underscore the concept that you want to step down in stages to make it last. It's like weight loss. You don't want to do it too fast. You'll gain it all back. It's like getting away from your phone is a process. And so what are you going to do to fill all that free time?
Eat.
But, and you could also put an email out to your friends and family and say, I'm doing this, and I want you to know I love you, and if you email me or text me and I don't get back to you right away, it has nothing personal. I'm just doing this, and I've decided that I want to start going on more hikes, or learning to knit, or play a musical instrument. Like, kind of throw it out there to them, because we're social animals and we notice what other people do. So when you start modeling different behaviors, people notice. And I can tell you, with 2 grown daughters in their mid to late 20s, I can't lecture them anymore. I can't say what they can and can't do. They've heard my voice. They've heard my voice for many years, and they tune it out. But I can model, and they pay attention. And so that motivates me to be a model. I've got grandkids, and it's the same. It keeps on going. I keep worrying about the next generation, the next. So if you say that you're doing this and you're letting them know, and I will check it a couple of times a day, and I'll get back to you when I can. I love you, and I'm now off to learn how to kayak. Make it look fun, because it is fun. We just have to remember. Okay, earthing is my favorite of all-time topics. So earthing, who hasn't heard of earthing? That's Ashlyn for you. Okay, earthing. This is a great book. I'll pass it around. Maybe you've read it. Earthing, another word for it is grounding. It just means touching the earth. We used to do it for, thousands of years as human beings, and it's only in more recent centuries that we now wear rubber shoes. So the earth has negative ions, and we have positive ions, and so when we're stepping barefoot on the earth, there's a transfer, and the positive ions, which sounds like a good thing in us, get sucked out, and negative ions get sucked in. Negative ions are what calm us down. They're parasympathetic. We are more positively charged than ever because of all the electronic devices, everything that's around us. So You know, it's so cheap. You can put a chair in your backyard and you can sit in on it and put your bare feet on the ground. And it's a 20-minute minimum before that, you know, you'll start to notice the effect. I walk barefoot a couple of hours almost every day. And you can also buy earthing shoes because there's some seasons where it's hard to earth in the winter when it's really cold outside, and it's hard to earth in the heat of summer because the ground gets really scratchy, the leaves are really dry, but spring and fall are the best. And so on those off seasons when it's hard, there's a company in Canada called Brown Bear, and they make earthing shoes. It's simply just leather on the bottom because most of our shoes have rubber. Neoprene, plastic. So we're not touching the earth like we've done for, you know, since the beginning of our species. And that book I'm passing around is a fantastic read. It's just written by this man who went into cable television. He got really high up and worked for the largest cable television installer in the country. And then he had this illness, and he remembered his childhood in Montana, where there were some Native Indian kids that he played with quite a bit. And one of my favorite lines in the book is he started thinking about, because he worked in the installation of television, cable TV, he was working with wires and all of that, and he understood the concept of grounding your house. A house has to be grounded. And so he started thinking, wait a minute, people are walking around, they're not grounded. And so he had this theory, and then he paired up with this doctor, Stephen Sinatra, cardiologist, and they did all this amazing science and tests, and it's just a page turner. But he said he remembered back when he was a boy, and he went over to his friend's house. There was an indigenous person and the boy's mom said, "Take those shoes off; they'll make you sick." When he walked into the house, and he always remembered it, but he just thought, oh yeah, well, he knew that Indian tribes did things differently, so he never thought more of it. But years later, he came back to that thought in his head. And isn't it like that in life? You hear something, and for some reason, it sticks in your head because there's a truth to it, and then decades can go by and you recall it. So at night, what can we do? So touch the earth. Whenever you sit on the earth, walk barefoot, you build up. I pass people on the trails all the time, and they say, oh my God, how do you do that? And it just surprises me because it's not hard. Your feet toughen up in a short matter of time. So as Kelly was saying, we want to make our home a sanctuary at night in particular. If you can only do it at night, then do it. You turn all your devices off at night. They do not need to stay on. And if the breaker to your bedroom, the electrical breaker to your bedroom is ideal. If you can just switch that to off, and then in the morning just turn it back on. It's the best, that's the room you're sleeping in. You're not going to go turn every breaker off in your house, but the bedroom would be important. And then there's all kinds of studies coming out now about the distress people are experiencing, the mental distress. But one of the best movies, if you haven't seen it, it's a docudrama. It came out in 2020 called Social Dilemma.
Social what?
Social Dilemma. Yes, so you could still find it on Netflix. And I was living in the Silicon Valley Bay Area, raising kids there, teaching kids there. It's, the tech capital of the world, and everybody's so techy. And I had deep suspicions about it all, and that documentary validated it. There was a lot of whistleblowers. These tech companies hire psychiatrists, psychologists to pay them top dollar, more than they could make in private practice, to help make the phones addicting, because they're experts on human behavior. People who work at the tech companies, they know how damaging the phones are, so they don't buy them for their own children. The people, and it all comes out in this documentary. And like a lot of things, you know, you just say, wow, the people that work there that know the most, they don't give their kids this. So, okay, I think I've hammered that home quite a bit. All right, am I doing the next? You are, Kelly.
Okay. So, maybe some of you can't read this, but NIH stands for the National Institute of Health. National Library of Medicine. Evidence from a variety of cross-sectional, longitudinal, and empirical studies implicates smartphone and social media use in the increase in mental distress, self-injurious behavior, and suicidality among youth. There is a dose-response relationship, and the effects appear to be greatest among girls. Social media can affect adolescent self-view and interpersonal relationships through social comparison and negative interactions, including cyberbullying. And so that's just separate, completely separate from the RFR issue we're talking about. So I just thought that was important to read that. Okay. So we're coming to the end, which is nice because you guys will have some free time to look over the free flyers and ask questions. So how do we manage in social settings? Well, my friend Lisa is here, and when I go to her house, she knows she and her husband have said, yeah, no problem, we can turn off our Wi-Fi for you. And how nice, right? Because there's this understanding like, oh, if I'm going to smoke a cigarette and that's going to make my friend feel ill, you're not going to smoke a cigarette. So why wouldn't you want to help your family and friends who might be feeling this impact of this stuff, right? We brought up the RF meter, and I can pass this around. You guys can take a look at that. Sitting outside. I love sitting outside. That's the best place because you're not trapped inside of a building. So going to Lithia Park, obviously, going to outdoor restaurants. Oh, you can go ahead and open if you feel like it. And I love the Brit Festival. I just threw that in because, of course, it's outdoors. So, you know, even if everybody's on their cell phones around you in your outdoor setting, those waves are being broadcast broadly. So that will help to mitigate those waves and the effect on your body. Oh, and I forgot to mention, at my beautiful church that I go to on Sundays, the minister, the Reverend Kimberly, she'll say, can everybody please turn off your cell phones or put them in airplane mode? So I can go back to that church. But again, if I went to a church and I'm just sitting there and this person's on their phone and this person, I'm probably not going to return because I don't want to feel that energy. So how can we avoid heavy use locations like airports and stadiums and concerts and movie theaters? I go to the movie theater at a time when I think like, okay, nobody's going to be there on a Wednesday morning at 12. But if you work a job, that's probably more difficult. So you just kind of have to adapt. We're adaptable, and that's how it works. But it kind of bumps me out because there's certain situations in which I would want to go to a big concert and to maybe hear a key player and performer. And the whole issue about locations where cell towers are nearby and how do we avoid that, that's a tough one. You know, if we're living in a place and they put up a cell tower, what are our options? Well, we move, but sometimes that's not going to be realistic, right? So shielding is going to be really important. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So research protective gear and mitigating technology. So now would be a good time for me to talk about this. So this woman in town, her name is Jessica, and she made all of these little pockets for you. So you all are able to take one of these home. And I'm going to read her story. It's a little long, so just bear with me. Okay. Hello, my name is Jessica. I could not come to your meeting today because to protect my health, I cannot be in situations where there are likely to be lots of cell phones and overall Wi-Fi. I became seriously ill in 2016 and have since recovered mostly, although I'm still highly reactive. I'm 77 and live with Tom Clooney, who's a chiropractor. Tom has many patients who are ill with atrial fibrillation, which statistically is many is sweeping the country, and some who have died of cancer as a result of exposure to microwave radiation. We have provided here a list of potential symptoms Tom has for his patients. Do you have any of these microwave radiation-related health problems? Shielding from Wi-Fi. Knowing your exposure is very important and it is necessary to have a meter to measure the Wi-Fi. I use the simplest meter, Safe and Sound, which is the one that's being passed around. I'm just reading quickly so I don't read everything. So she gives her websites, www.lessemf and Safe Living Technologies. I prefer these companies because they are honest and supportive. I've been buying clothing and materials to make my own jackets since 2016 from Less EMF because they are honest and reliable. The aluminum cases you see here are samples of inexpensive shielding for cell phones. I used one with my old 3G track phone, which I kept in my card for emergencies. Please feel free to take one. This method allowed me to stand outside the car and talk for 15 to 20 minutes without having a Wi-Fi reaction. I'm not going to go through what she did. Here's some facts. Ashland has 27 cell phone towers and 119 antennas, and Medford has 197 towers and 275 antennas. And she gives the website that if you're curious, you can just Google with that website to find out where you are in relationship to towers nearby. Invitation. Anyone who wants to talk with us about personal or house shielding is welcome to visit our totally shielded mobile home to see how we did it. So what they did, this is basically, you can buy this at Ace Hardware, and it comes in long sheets, and they have placed this sheeting all around their home to block out the radiation. And it works because she has a meter and she just uses it to show like the levels that are inside and outside her house. And
Metal screening.
oh, aluminum screens.
Aluminum screening.
Right. So phone windows
Yeah.
that come with window screens. Those were made of aluminum, and she gave me some samples, and we'll have those around for you all to see as well. And one thing I wanted to say, Nikki, are those blue blockers?
Okay, what?
Blue blockers? Yeah. So that was one thing we hadn't thrown into our presentation either. That blue blockers are glasses that you can order online or go to an ophthalmologist and get them, because actually in Ashland I went to my ophthalmologist and they didn't carry them. So they will block the red light, which is what keeps people awake looking at screens. And Alan, do you want to comment more about blue blockers, how they work?
Actually, it's ultraviolet light, which is the high energy light. On an industrial level, it can be very harmful to the eyes, but it is emitted from screens, and this particular color lens will prevent that from being transmitted to your eye.
Thanks for going through that. Yeah, I think the next slide is.
Let me just add something
Please
to
do.
that last part, and that is like maybe like 2 to 3 hours before you're planning to go to sleep. It's a good idea to wear those glasses, because whether you're watching TV or looking at your computer, it's the same thing. I have some amber light bulbs, so I turn off all my lights and only keep the lights in the house on that are amber, because that's how we were designed. The sun is starting to set, it changes color as it sets, and our circadian rhythms know to get tired, then it starts producing melatonin as a result of the change. But if we have bright lights on, LED lights on, I'm going to go to bed now. The body can't do it as well. So it's just a good, if you can set that up in your house, great. Otherwise, you can get the glasses and you can still look at your computer and watch the television right up until bedtime, but you won't be getting that blue light.
One thing I do also want to bring up, because mitigating technologies, there is a stone called shungite. It's black. Some people swear by it. I don't have the know-how to endorse it, but I think it's a lovely stone. Looks like you have some. Yeah, it's black and it's very pretty. And it's I do carry a few. I do have a few stones that I wear, and it can be very protective. But again, I think it's individualistic, so it depends. And then there are other ways that the copper poles, Anya,
I
what are
think
the
we could do a
discs?
whole nother class on that.
We probably could.
Yeah. We'll just
Okay,
stick
so
to-
we'll move on. So education, advocacy, and taking action. So how do we go outside of our homes and deal with the world when the cell towers are there and all that? So meaningful policy change is critical to full protection. It's everywhere, radiation, and we can reduce exposure as outlined in our slides. However, we cannot control exposure to all sources. And this is the unfortunate part because we know that money is an issue, and sometimes people can't hire an electrician to come in and hardwire their home. So what do? Well, they take this baby steps. They do this one thing at a time. And as I said, our last slide has some resources with people who you could call. And I have a meter. If you feel like, you know what, I really am concerned, can you come and measure my home? I'd be happy to. There is a field called building biology, and these are people who are trained. They're trained not only in measuring EMFs and RF energy, but mold. What else are they trained in? The structure of your home and what's called the dirty electricity issue with that energy coming from your walls that maybe your home is not grounded properly. But they're few and far between. So I can do it or somebody else can for you. Yeah, we want to help reduce radiation where possible, so get informed. If you'd like to sign up for Oregon for Safer Technology, if you don't already belong, I send out about once a month an email that just says, here's what's happening locally, here's what's happening in Oregon, here's what's happening nationally or internationally. A lot of activism going on in other countries. Other countries have far less levels of allowable radiation. And maybe you have a conversation with your friends and family tonight or tomorrow or next week where you say, hey, I see you putting your phone to your head. And your phone, in your manual, it says don't do that. Did you know that? So that's that conversation you might want to have. Anything else you want to add? Here's our list of info. We have some of the websites, so I guess we did include them all. So that, I think.
Those are local people that live in Ashland. Tim did my house. He hardwired my house. Scott did your house, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Derek is a computer support person if you just need help figuring out how do I turn the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi off on my computer. Simple things like that to fixing your computer.
Right, as well.
Yes.
I think that concludes our. Oh, and if you'd like to give us some feedback, this is our virgin run. So this we should have a bottle of champagne. But we'd love some feedback. If you felt like, well, they went on too much about that, or I really like that part, I'd like to know more about that. Please email us and let us know what you thought about this. So thank you so much. That's it. And we'll take some questions if you'd like. Yes.
When my new car has a button I push that makes it open and close, what would you call that?
A fob, is that what they call it?
Is that Wi-Fi?
I think it's a very low level. I don't think it's.
I think it must be Bluetooth.
Alan, do you have any feedback on what a fob will do?
It definitely is a radio frequency radiation, but probably a low level, and it's very short, just enough to open your garage door or your car.
You have to be near it. You can't be too far away or it won't work.
And when it's in your pocket, it's not doing that.
Correct.
Okay.
It's battery operated. Yeah, but it sends a signal to the car.
But you have to push the button before the radiation goes up.
So
So
that's
it's not
You're
just
out, you're doing
emitting
it. It's
on
not
its
in
own.
your pocket.
like a battery or something.
That's a good point. And Joy, you talked about animals.
Right.
So,
Just, you would just kind of think of people and.
right. So I do know, I believe that there's an uptick in seizures in animals. And if you think about the radiation coming at animals, it kind of leads its way to that. And here's something I didn't mention, which I do teach preschool at this point, just a few hours a week. And the kids who are the most actively disruptive, let's call it that, their parents drive Teslas. And if you think about what a Tesla is, you're surrounded by this energy. And again, some people are like, you know what, I love my Tesla, I'm great, no problem, my kids are great. But think about it, that some bodies, that's literal, some bodies are not going to be great. And more research is needed, but just being aware of that. And I would say, Joy, that maybe animals also need to be monitored. So, any other questions?
No.
Wendell?
Regarding airplane mode, there's either you turn your phone off altogether or you go to airplane mode. So what I hear you saying is airplane mode stops all the
Transmissions.
transmission for your phone seeking anything. So you're not getting any radiation coming out of your phone. Is that right?
Yes,
And-
but you have many antennas in a phone. You have the Wi-Fi antenna, you have your Bluetooth antenna, you have your cellular antennas. So, as Lindsay demonstrated, turning off those is better than nothing. You know, and it can be a pain in the butt to turn off your phone completely. So that's just something
No,
to.
but if I turn my phone off completely, it turns off.
Everything.
Except
So you'll
I've
be able
seen
to-
on web, turn the phone off, drive around town, and then look this, and that it's still tracking you. So that's kind of an interesting.
When it's off, it's turned on.
When it's turned off even.
So are we talking digital surveillance?
I guess so. So the question is, well, there's got to be some radiation coming in or going out. Okay. But turning it off seems like it's, if you have one of these things, you can put it in there. So the question would be, then you can't receive a phone call either if
No.
you've got it in there.
Right.
That's like turning it off and putting it in a sleeve like that.
I mean, we could do an experiment if you guys don't
So
mind.
there's different phones, and there's different versions of software on those phones. You know how you'll get messages from time to time, oh, there's a new version, you know, we're gonna download it tonight. So we can't say something solid that would apply to all phones, but what you can do is experiment of one. So take your phone and put it on airplane mode, and then watch and see if the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth immediately turn off when you turn it on airplane. On mine, only the Wi-Fi does, the Bluetooth is still on, so I go into the Bluetooth and turn it off
Okay.
manually. And as far as GPS goes, satellites are broadcasting down to us.
Right.
Our phone is not trying to find them, but your phone will pick up a satellite
Signal like a radio
signal,
yeah.
and that's what allows you to still use GPS even though you have it in airplane mode. So
Okay.
that's the good news and also the bad news. But I have never heard of a phone, when you turn it completely off, still tracking you.
Well, I don't know the truth of that, but this in one video that we're being tracked. You can't turn it off. If you turn it off,
Well, if you can't
it's
turn
still,
your, so I know that the new model of the iPhone was almost impossible to figure out how to turn it off. I had heard at one point that you couldn't turn it off, and then somebody showed me, no, you can, you have to hit this button and this
yeah,
button.
right.
So that's probably where that internet info
Could
came
well be.
from.
It's kind of like,
Turn the phone off completely.
Yeah, the brand new iPhones didn't look off, the same way you would normally turn off the version right before it didn't apply. And so I thought, oh my gosh, they've made it now so you can't even turn them off. But then, and that was going around, everybody was having this same realization because they didn't know how to turn off their newest phone. And then somebody showed me, no, you can, and you hit two. Does
Right.
anyone have the newest phone? Because I could.
But it's not the same where you just hold the two buttons?
That's
to get
the
it
way,
to-
that's the way.
Yeah, mine's not the newest version, but it's a recent version.
Okay,
But yeah.
yeah, so,
And one thing I want to say about your phones, so you can use your camera when you're in airplane mode, You can use your alarm when it's in airplane mode. So some people go, oh my gosh, you know, how am I
Or
gonna wake?
anything else that's on your phone, like the movie, you can watch the movie.
If it's downloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
download it, yeah.
Right. There's other apps that can be used with it in airplane mode, but it's late.
Well, they've made our phone be everything now. It can be a flashlight when it's downloaded.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
camera
Yeah.
and all that, yeah.
What are the two buttons that you turn?
It's your button on this side, and
Yeah.
then it's your top volume button on the other side.
Oh.
And you just squeeze those and
top
hold
one.
them. Yep, you just squeeze them and hold them until you get your turn off screen.
Great.
Did it take you a while to figure that out?
Yes.
Yeah,
No,
usually-
my granddaughter told me.
Okay.
No,
I'm
because
wondering-
I had this is a 12, when the 10 was like that. I think they're on
Yes, it
15,
was.
version
Okay.
15 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the
So-
13 where it changed and people didn't know how to do it at first. Yeah. Well,
You had another
I
question.
did. I had several questions. First, I want to know if when you turned off, when you took care of your mom's wireless phones all over the house, did her health conditions improve? Or?
No, because that was like after the fact that I realized,
Gotcha.
like, because fibromyalgia is so mysterious. They
Right,
don't know.
Right.
And it, you
But
know, that's
then-
my theory.
Yeah.
It was never.
And removing
Tested.
them didn't improve things necessarily
No,
for her.
no.
So kind of a already.
And we didn't remove them because.
Ah, gotcha. Just your theory. Understood. What about laptop stands? So you have like, you know, a cushion and then wood between your body and the laptop. What do
So
you all
I
think
made a
about
little
this?
cushion and I used this stuff
Ah,
and I lined it.
great.
So that way,
Perfect.
yeah.
but
Excellent.
I do want to say, add to that you should always still have your laptop plugged in.
Plugged in.
Because if not, you become the ground.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So don't use it as the wireless device that laptops are
Exactly.
known to be.
Exactly.
Right, perfect, okay. And what about Wi-Fi extenders? You put your router in the garage.
But maybe it doesn't.
But sounds like Wi-Fi extenders are kind of just as
Boosting
bad,
the Wi-Fi.
right?
They're boosting the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, so not great to have around the house if
So
you've
there's
got
two
your.
things you can do.
Okay.
If you have the kind of router where there's a button and that lets the router stay on but just turns the Wi-Fi off.
Okay,
If not, then you just unplug your router
all right,
at night.
and
Yeah.
great, good, thank you. This was so. Oh, what amber lights? Where do you get those? Just at the
Oh,
hardware store?
I'm sorry to confess, Amazon.
Okay.
Are those like the bug lights that you're talking about that are?
Just a color.
That are kind of.
It's just a color. It's an
Yeah, those
amber
are the-
bulbs,
Like
and they're
yellow.
incandescent. I get incandescent
Right.
bulbs. Yeah.
But you can get those incandescent bulbs at 1,000 bulbs,
Yeah.
1000bulbs.com, and they're really pretty well priced. We got Christmas lights, and
And
Yeah.
Wi-Fi on PCs are on your bottom bar on the right, on the bottom. You were
thanks.
talking about Apple on the top.
Thanks.
Is the Bluetooth down there
And I was
too?
just gonna
Yes.
say,
On the
it
right.
blew me away to see how much emission these phones. I mean, it was just in taking an EM meter around, it's like, oh my God. You know, because they're in bedrooms, they're, you know, kind of all over the place. And I just was really knocked out at the reality of that because they're
Right.
so common.
I know, baby monitors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a better way because I had baby monitors for my kids when they were little, but you know, you just don't know. But and there's the convenience. So there must be a safe baby monitor out there that somehow can be probably hardwired. You'd have to hardwire it, would be a headache. But let's go, Suzanne, and then Wendell.
Oh, I was just wondering when you, like, I turn my router off, but it's plugged in, like my Ethernet is plugged into the wall, which is very hard for me to get at, to undo it.
Does your router have just an on-off switch on the back?
My router does, and I
Okay.
turn that off, but
Okay.
then I still have the, you know, it's still plugged into the wall.
If
my-
you can turn it off, that's good.
Or do I, or I can't,
Yeah,
it's
like-
hard to get at because
To
it's against
unplug
the
it,
wall.
but as long as
But
you have
can
it
you
on.
turn it off on, like you were talking about turning the the switch in the box off?
With a
That's,
breaker?
yeah,
Right
that's
there.
what I was asking, if it has
On-off switch.
an on-off switch
On the router?
on the actual router.
On the router it does.
Okay.
And I turn that off, but I'm
Okay.
talking about, it's still plugged into the,
The electrical.
Ethernet, but I don't think Ethernet
It's
is.
not.
I don't have
Yeah,
to worry about
Ethernet.
that.
She's talking about
Yeah.
the electrical power cord still plugged in.
That's okay, as long as the router is turned off,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
No, she's talking about the electrical.
Didn't you say Ethernet, that you
No.
couldn't unplug your Ethernet cord?
Or you're
Well,
just talking
yeah,
about
it's
the
set up,
power
but
cord?
it's-
You know what, we can like, when we break or finish, we'll engage
Okay.
personally, individually to kind of
Okay.
clarify everything. Wendell?
The other thing around grounding.
Yeah.
That company, Clint Over's company sells grounding mats that where the wire goes out through a window, and you can put that in the ground.
Right.
Or it can go into a plug if you were
Right,
grounded.
you could, yeah, if you got a grounded plug in your home.
There's some controversy about grounding mats, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm not a scientist and I don't know too much about it. Alan, I don't know if you have a thought?
I could comment to anyone who's interested afterwards.
Okay.
Good.
Any other general questions that we can finish up with? This has been, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Let's go with you.
Yes, so there's the radio frequencies, and then there's the electro, EMF, and what is the EELF, extra low, or, these other frequencies?
So electromagnetic fields, EMFs, are what come from computers. The RF is the radiation that comes to make the devices work, but the electricity is different. So we talk about
The Earth has an electric field and it has a magnetic field.
Mhm.
And this is where, Alan, if you wouldn't mind stepping in a little bit here and talking about the difference between those two, the electric and the.
Alan is a mechanical engineer retired, so he's
Because
got a lot of.
there's EELF, extra low frequencies.
That's SKIO.
No.
There is the term ELF, which is extra low frequency. That's part of the RF spectrum at the very low end, typically around power lines, that type of thing. It's just a way of describing where it's located in the spectrum. It's a low frequency.
But still RF emitting.
Yes.
So power lines are really.
It's still RF
Yes.
emitting? It's still emitting RF,
Yes.
okay.
Even though it's electrical?
Yeah. We can talk more about it.
Yeah.
We'll have to discuss it. with
Lisa?
you.
Yeah.
Two questions. One was the wired earbuds that you have. Are they different from the wired earbuds that you get with Apple or anybody else?
Right, these, the brand is Aircon.
Is there some difference in any
Yeah,
other wired ones?
they're anti-radiation, so the way they make them,
But if the Apple ones are on a wire, would they be doing radiation? It's going through the wire.
if they don't say that they're anti-radiation, then
Oh,
they are
What's the
radiating.
company again?
Aircon. Because if you go, look at Amazon and just type in, earbuds, wired earbuds, you'll see a lot of them, and there'll be a couple that will say, anti-radiation.
And the other question I had was, what happened to you with your sensitivity during the solar flares? Did you feel anything? Because there was like massive electromagnetic radiation hitting the earth and like severe level of 5.
Right.
Would your little radiation measuring thing pick that up?
She did get mad at me more often.
Bruno felt the effects of that.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel that.
You know, when Kelly talks about her EMF sensitivity, I always think to myself that some people would get the idea, oh, well, I'm not EMF sensitive. I think we're all being affected. I think there's just people who are aware of it that are affected so much, like her long journey that she went through to figure out what was causing it. I think most fatigue is one of the symptoms. Okay, that's such an easy one to say. That's caused by 1,000 other things. But brain fog and fatigue, I mean, how many of us have that?
Right now.
So, so that argument of like, well, I'm not EMF sensitive, that people throw out. It's like, okay, well, just wait till it shows up somehow. We all have different bodies and we all have an Achilles heel, you know, a weakness in a different place. And when you're being affected by negative bio-negative events, it will find its way to your weakest spot. Yeah.
Yeah, there is that concept from Hans Seeley and the stress scale where a healthy individual will be in alarm mode, right? Maybe a sensitive person. Alarm means you have your body's reacting, you have symptoms. And then if you don't change it, if you don't adapt and mitigate it, then you go into adaptation or exhaustion mode. We all have this sort of concept that the person who is sensitive is sicker, but they're healthier because they're in alarm mode and are reacting and having the symptoms instead of just being adapted. And the exhaustion phase is the cancer phases, is the fibromyalgia phases, is the...
Thank you for bringing that up, because one thing I didn't mention, that I used to suffer from severe joint pain. I have arthritis in my knee, I have arthritis in my hip, and when I was electrosensitive and surrounded my environment with a lot of RF radiation, I was constantly taking a leave. I was trying to find relief and creams and this and that, and now
Getting injections.
getting injections, right, the shots, and so now I just, once in a while they flare up, but overall I like what you're saying. Thank you very much, because
Well,
I do
it's
feel very
important.
healthy.
Yeah, well, it's important because we tend to think that people who have symptoms are the ones that
we-
you know, we've got it turned on its head. And if you're really in alarm mode, you feel the symptoms. You vomit if you have headache. You react. You have the headache if you're getting an infection. And we're just kind of trained to suppress symptoms all the time. And
Yeah, we didn't want to bring the vibe down with talking about the diseases that we're discovering. So glioblastomas is a tumor that is affecting where people are holding their phones. That's very serious, and
Yeah, I would like to say a little bit about how for the last 5 years, there's been awareness growing and trying to keep cell towers out of Ashland and whatnot, and we've won some and we've lost some. So we're switching more into an education mode, because the bottom line is the more people that know, when people really know, then they will get on board. It's just that enough people don't know, and it's not our fault for not knowing, to be honest. I mean, this information is not made prevalent.
it's not fun to talk about. We didn't even dive down deep into the 5G issue, which it's a marketing scam, really, to get more dollars for telecom, and that's a whole nother discussion. We could have a long presentation on 5G, but we won't. Yeah.
I don't understand why the same companies in Europe, they have different standards, so the iPhones are manufactured different.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if
Coca-Cola
your
has
group
less
is
sugar. I mean, our country is a capitalistic, corporate-run, because we're run by corporations here because of pure capitalism, unchecked. And that's where we're at. And it's not a good place to be right now for the average person who's just trying to carry out their life. We're not, the agencies that are supposed to protect us are not protecting us, but I think it finally reaches peak of bad, and I think people are waking up, and I'm always hopeful, I wake up every day hopeful, that it's just about us taking a stand. We the people taking a stand. Because telecom spent $2.2 billion over the last 10 years on putting money in the Congress people's pockets. That's $2.2 billion alone, just putting money into our senators and our representatives' pockets. So that if a cell tower goes in front of your house, you cannot argue against that cell tower based on health effects, because our Congress people passed a law, because they were being given so much money by telecom, They passed a law that said we cannot argue on the basis of health. Well, why would you need a law like that if they clearly know it's affecting health? That's why they
Right.
passed the law, you know? That's why telecom paid them so much money to pass the law. So that's just the situation that we're in right now, but it's gotten so bad that people are all over are saying enough's enough.
And your dollars speak. So if you want to go buy the brand new latest iPhone 15 and spend, I don't even know how much those things cost, but you can buy a refurbished older phone and it will still work. You can't buy too old of a phone because they've eliminated 2G, which was what the original, the G stands for generation. People think it means gigabytes, but that's a misnomer. So you can't even get a 2G phone. But 3G, 4G still function, and 5G, we don't need it. Why do you need to download faster? That's the only thing with 5G, so it's silly. Yeah.
One thing I noticed having done a lot of photography on my phone is that my new phone, which US Cellular made me get, discontinuing the other one, it is actually AI searching every photo I have ever done on that phone and sorting it and suggesting, oh, you did this photo of kids with Legos? Here's another one with kids with Legos. That's something that I organize on my computer at home, but it is being done in the cloud without telling me. I mean, I noticed it, but I mean, speaking of invasive.
Maybe the AI presentation, there'll be some people you
Yes.
can ask to say, I don't want that AI capability. How do I
Get
turn it on?
out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have another question here.
Is it safer to unplug your TV and your, all that stuff that goes with the TV, DVD player?
Can you
all
speak
that?
up a little bit? I can't.
She's asking, is it important to unplug your TV at night and
Is it safer?
is it safer?
Yes, it is. You
It
can
is
just
needed.
get a breaker and just, that was,
Yeah, but that's
pull
the
it out
easiest
of the
way
wall.
is, well, you could do that or you could go to your breaker, your electrical panel.
no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about power strip. A power strip will help you just go, and then you don't need to unplug each one and you're
But
just,
if your TV's in your room, is it
No,
in your bedroom?
no.
Okay, so the power breaker turns off all electricity to your bedroom because
Oh.
that's the best you can do because, I mean, that's the,
But it is safer to unplug a TV and a DVD player and all those kind of things. No?
I would say that depending on how many devices you have in your house,
Mhm.
all these electrical devices, if you were to go around and unplug all of them, I mean, it would be kind of a hassle.
Right, I'm just talking about, the stuff in my living room. I have a TV and a DVD player.
And is
and a
everything
CD.
plugged into a power strip like Kelly was saying?
No, but I have plugs all over the place.
Uh-huh.
But I could have.
You can get a power strip,
I
yeah,
have one,
have them all
yeah.
plugged into that and then just turn the power
Turn it
strip
off.
off.
Okay, good.
I just, a couple things. Just recently, did I get something via email that in Oregon, they're calling in this idea about smart meters. That, we were to get in touch with our Congress people and vote for choice, basically. Having a choice, because so much of that has been taken away.
But
So-
Ashland has a choice, but
No,
you're
I
talking
mean,
about,
this was for the state.
okay, for the
It's not,
state.
yeah, it just came last week,
Uh-huh.
and, which is, if
But
you're
just to be
interested.
clear for people who don't know, Ashland
Right.
advocated for
Right.
choice. So
Right.
we as a town can choose to not have that smart meter. So if you have a smart meter and you don't want it, it's super simple. You just go down to City Hall, they give you a form, one page, you fill it out. A week later, somebody comes out and replaces your smart meter with a non-smart meter. But now you're talking about the entire state.
State,
Yeah.
yes, because I suspect that there are cities, not Ashland in this case, that do not allow you to
All of
have a choice.
California, all of
So, yeah,
California
and
just
so
need a
this
choice.
is actually speaking for choice,
Interesting.
and so might want to pay attention
Yeah.
to that. The other thing is, and this goes more into the 5G thing, I'm seeing more this calling in the FCC and their ordinance that goes back to 1999. Now let's think about what's happened in technology. 96. From 1996 to now.
86.
And the FCC, who basically is the one who's in the Federal Communications Commission, is the one who said health can't play any part in this. It is so completely ridiculous that if, and people are noticing this.
So what Bill's talking about is the FCC measured devices. The last time they measured was 1996, and they've refused to measure again.
Right.
And they've been taken to court, and they lost. And the judge told them, you have to come up, measure, and see how much is emitting. And they are appealing. They're just keeping it, they have so much money, so they just keep it appeal. But
Well, it goes back to Missy's point about the safety levels. So the safety levels is what the FCC will set. And they say, this is safe. And European countries go, no, 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 this is what we consider safe. And that's the acceptable levels of RF radiation that is in
But the
America.
difference between 1996 and today, think about that. That's almost 30 years. And what devices have come out since then that they refuse to measure because they know it will put us way over, even though we're already way over.
Is Talent and Phoenix part
Smart
of this
meter free.
They're Pacific Power, and I think I mentioned that you can call them and say, I don't want,
Oh, okay.
you can opt out. It's called the opt-out.
Opt-out, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so I didn't know that about California. That's really unfortunate, yeah, that you...
Yeah,
They do make a shielding device that can sit over the smart meter, but you want to shield from within your home. So if it sits outside your bedroom window, you're going to want to get some of this and block it, because a smart meter is it's like that pulsing thing, and if it's, in your bed, near your bedroom, that's not good. But again,
What
Ashlyn,
about these things that you
thankfully.
hang, you hang over your
right,
bed?
the
to
canopies,
Yeah,
people
canopies.
swear by them, and
Really?
basically, you're taking a metallic fabric,
Yep.
and it's made with special fibers, and I can pass around this. This is what Jessica, the woman I was explaining to you. So you can I made curtains for my house, and these are fabrics you can buy, and it's cheaper to, I mean, what a headache to make a canopy that goes over your bed, you might as well.
You want to talk about the paint that you and Bruno used?
Yeah, so, so you're gonna be receiving radiation from your neighbor. And how do you block that? So they do make a paint, and it's quite a chore. You paint your walls with this shielding paint, and it's black. And it blocks radiation that's coming from your neighbor. It's quite, as I said, it's a big chore, it's a commitment, but if you're electrosensitive and you're feeling like, what am I gonna do? I need to sleep, that's a good solution.
I thought the paint came in colors.
Maybe it does now,
Yeah.
but,
Well, then you paint over it a couple of times with real paint. You walls don't have to be black.
any other questions? Because I'd love to wrap and then have you guys, if you want to take one of these little sample.
Yeah.
Missy?
I have one more question. So, if you're supposed to keep it several centimeters from your body, but you're touching it with your hand,
Yeah.
is it the same type of
Oh, did I not
exposure?
mention the best, great question. Thank you for that question. Yes, you're right. It does still affect you if you're holding it in your hand. So the best way to turn your cell phone on during one of those intervals that you've decided to go check your phone, speaker mode. And then walk away, sit a distance enough so you can still be heard and you can still hear the person you're talking to. But speaker mode is your friend.
Is the paint good or better than the fabric going over your bed?
I would say the paint is going to protect the walls. The fabric is your next best choice, because you may live in an apartment or a situation where you can't paint those walls.
Right.
So that fabric is pretty helpful.
It'll do.
Yeah.
You know, when you go on your computer and you go to Wi-Fi, you see other people's Wi-Fis. So it also depends on where
I
you...
don't know. I
Okay,
don't have a Wi-Fi.
okay, well, good. But I was just going to use that as an example to
Yeah.
say, like, some of us live far enough away from other people, and some of us don't.
Right.
Apartment buildings are the worst. I mean, you can hardwire your whole apartment, but you've got walls, you're sharing walls. So that's why sometimes you see a bunch of Wi-Fis you could join. It's your neighbor's Wi-Fi. So that'd be one way to determine how much am I being affected. Do I live in a house with a lot of land around me? I'm probably not going to see a lot of neighbor Wi-Fi. Or
Right.
do I live somewhere where I see a lot? Which would determine if you wanted to paint your walls or,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that Jessica was kind enough to, she gave us a few of these booklets. They're called Less CMF and they have all the products. So all these clothes that you see this guy wearing, they have metal in them. And I have one when I go to the airport, I put this little sweatshirt over on me and it does help with a hoodie. Protecting the brain is important. Joy?
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to say a bit of appreciation that you came to our church one time and talked a little bit about it. But then also that I got to talk to you about when I used to wear a pager and the effects that I had from the pager and how eventually I put 2 and 2 together and then moved the pager and that part of my body stopped hurting. And then recently that I wore my cell phone in my pocket and had this pain in my abdomen for months, and then finally figured it out again, and within 5 days it was
That's what
gone.
it's going to take for people to just go, wait a minute, what's going on? And then that separation and go, okay, what can I do to change it up? And maybe it is that radiating device that's causing me trouble. So, yeah.
So do you get this material at a fabric store? Where do you?
No, you have to order it
Order it
online,
online.
Less CMF, and there's another company that makes it, but I can't remember the name, but can we put it up there? She may have given you the resources, because she's so sweet. She made all those cases for everybody.
She put her letter inside each of them.
Yeah.
So if you want to write down our emails and give us feedback later on if you think of something, or you want to ask us if we would come over and do a reading in your house, please feel free.
You two did a great job.
Thanks, Belle.
Yeah.
Thank you.